The channel shares news about the royal life of Catherine and her family. The second I said no, the room went ice cold. For a moment, all you could hear was forks scraping against plates and Sienna's fake little sniffles. Then my dad leaned forward, voice hard like a hammer. Don't forget who raised you. Ethan, family means sacrifice. Your sister needs this. I kept my tone even. That money isn't mine to give. It's Lila's. I've worked 2 jobs to build it. I won't touch it. Sienna gasped like I just stabbed at her. So you're going to let me drown? You'd rather watch me get ruined than help. A laugh slipped out, not from humor, but disbelief. You ruined yourself. Sienna. Swipe by swipe. Nobody forced you to buy a $1. 600 bag. My mom's face hardened. Don't be cruel. She's young. She made mistakes. You've always been too hard on her. That line. Too hard on her. I've heard it my whole life. When she crashed cars. When she lied about classes. When she overdrew their account. Somehow, it was always me who needed to adjust. Not her. Meanwhile, I've been grinding since 16. Raising their granddaughter alone. But Sienna the golden child was still the one who deserved endless sympathy. I pushed my chair back. I'm not draining my daughter's future so she can keep buying shoes. That's when Dad dropped the threat. His voice was sharp enough to cut. If you won't help family, don't expect us to babysit anymore. I froze. Babysitting. They weren't exactly doing it for free. I always paid them, but it was still my emergency fallback when I couldn't find a sitter. They knew that. I stood. Deal. Lila and I don't need people who think a 4-year-old should sacrifice for a 24-year-old shopping addiction. Sienna burst into her practiced sobs. You're heartless. Ethan. Heartless. Mom, slam a hair napkin down. Don't come crying to us when you need something. I didn't argue. I just picked up Lila's overnight bag, slung it over my shoulder, and walked out. Driving home, my hands trembled on the wheel. Anger. Sadness. Disbelief. All of it twisted together in my chest. From the back seat, Lila hummed to herself, hugging her stuffed bunny, blissfully unaware of the storm swirling around her. She's only 4. She doesn't understand money or betrayal. All she knows is I'm her dad. And I'll take care of her. And I will. But God. It burned to realize my own parents thought her future was disposable. For as long as I can remember, I've told myself their favoritism didn't matter. That one day they'd finally see me the son who shows up. The father trying his best. But what they didn't know was that every time they dismissed me, every time they handed Sienna another bailout, I was quietly taking notes. That night, after putting Lila to bed, I checked her savings account. Balance, $2. Sube. It wasn't much, but it was hers. And no guilt trip, no ultimatum, was going to touch it. I didn't sleep. My phone buzzed past midnight with texts from Mom and Sienna. You need to reconsider. Lila won't even remember this. Stop being dramatic. You make good money. If Sienna's credit score tanks, it'll follow her forever. At 3 a.m. One last text from Dad. Final chance. Tomorrow, or we're done. A final chance. Like they were giving me an ultimatum to choose between being a son and being a father. And in that moment, my choice became clear. The next day at the warehouse, my manager Rick noticed my face. He's in his 50s. Beard going gray. Voice always calm. Rough night, he asked. I shrugged. Family stuff. He gave me a look. Like he'd lived it himself. Family can be the worst debt you'll ever pay. That line stuck with me all day. After my shift, I picked up Lila from preschool. She ran into my arms, laughing. Hair in messy pigtails. She doesn't know it yet. But she's the reason I breathe. The reason I'll keep grinding. Keep saving. Keep fighting. I should have seen it coming when Sienna posted another Instagram story that night, her in a cafe. Latte in focus. Captioned, working on my self-growth era. 40,000 in debt. Collectors calling. My parents panicking. And she's sipping coffee. Calling it a growth era. She didn't look like someone drowning. She looked like someone who still believed the cavalry would come. She always has. But this time, she was wrong. Because the cavalry had just quit. The silence lasted 2 days. No calls. No texts. Just quiet. For a moment, I almost believed maybe they'd finally let it go. But with my family, Silence never meant peace. It meant plotting. The storm hit Wednesday night. I was on the couch with Lila, watching her color outside the lines of a princess book. When my phone buzzed, group text, Mom, Dad, Sienna, and me, Mom family meeting. Friday, non-negotiable. Dad, be here at 7. Bring Lila if you want. Sienna, please don't make this harder than it has to be. My stomach dropped. Non-negotiable wasn't an invitation. It was a summons. For a second, I thought about ignoring it, pretending I never saw it. But then I looked at Lila, and I knew one day she'd ask why she didn't grow up with grandparents. If nothing else, I needed to go to put the boundary in stone. Friday night, I pulled into their driveway. The house looked the same, but the air felt heavy, like even the walls knew what was coming. Inside, the table was set for 4, not 5. No chair for me. Dad pointed at a spot near the end. Sit. I sat. Mom leaned forward. Voice syrupy sweet. Ethan, we raised you to value family. This isn't about money, it's about loyalty. Sienna's struggling, and it's cruel for you to withhold help when you're in a position to give it. I took a breath. That money belongs to Lila. Not me. Not you. And not Sienna. Sienna dabbed at her eyes. Voice trembling. So you'd really watch me get destroyed? I'm your sister. You're supposed to protect me. I wanted to scream. Instead, I let out a hollow laugh. Protect you from what your own choices. Dad's fist hit the table. The plates rattled. Lila jumped from the couch. Enough. You will do this, or you'll regret it. The word regret hung in the air like smoke. That was when Sienna shifted. Her tears dried instantly. A new smirk curled across her face. Fine, she said lightly. But when collectors show up at Mom and Dad's door, that'll be on you. My chest went tight. What are you talking about? She shrugged. They co-signed some of my cards. If I don't pay, it hits them. So really, Ethan, you're not just punishing me, you're punishing them. My mom's eyes filled with tears. We could lose the house if her credit tanks. Do you want that on your conscience? There it was. The guilt grenade. The trick they'd used my entire life to twist the mess until it looked like I caused it. I looked at Lila, crouched over her crayons, humming softly, and something snapped inside me. This wasn't about money anymore. It was about control. That night, after Lila was asleep, I pulled out a shoebox from the closet. Inside were scraps I'd never thrown away, screenshots, old texts, receipts. I laid them on the kitchen table like puzzle pieces. A text from Mom, you're too hard on her. She's fragile. A Venmo charge from Dad, $180 for babysitting. A photo of Sienna at Coachella. Thanks Mom and Dad, best gift ever. For the first time, it didn't look like scraps. It looked like evidence. I realized something then. I wasn't just the ignored son anymore. I was the archivist of their favoritism, the historian of every double standard. And if they wanted to drag me into their chaos, maybe it was time to stop playing defense. Maybe it was time to fight back. 2 days later, I scrolled through Sienna's feed. Latar. Nail salon selfies. Brunch mimosas. Caption prioritizing me in 2025. 40,000 in debt. Collectors calling. My parents terrified. And she was still posting like the bills didn't exist. She didn't look like someone drowning. She looked like someone still swiping the few cards she hadn't maxed out yet. Fully convinced the cavalry would come. But what she didn't know was this. The cavalry had already walked off the battlefield. And this time, I wasn't just refusing to play along. I was preparing to turn the tables. I woke up the next morning with a decision. No more reacting. No more defending. From now on, I'd take the first step. First move, protect Lila's money. On my lunch break, I went straight to the credit union. I converted her savings into a 529 plan with me as the custodian, Lila as the beneficiary, plus a UTMA account for future gifts. I locked it with every layer of security, 2-factor. Mailing alerts. ID checks. The branch manager, Teresa, leaned in and said quietly, if anyone tries to touch this, we'll flag it. Immediately, I walked out lighter. It wasn't much, just $2. 400, but it was safe. Second move, information. That night, after Lila fell asleep, I pulled my credit report. Then I walked my parents step by step through how to pull theirs. Not because I cared about helping, But because I wanted a written record, I emailed them the instructions with one line bolded. Do not list my name or number on any of Siena's accounts. Any attempt to use my identity will be reported. Short. Cold. Undeniable. I started a folder on my desktop and labeled it Receipts, Screenshots of Texts, Venmo Requests, Photos, Timestamps. At first, it looked like random scraps. Then I saw it for what it really was, a case file. I wasn't just the ignored son anymore. I was building a record. Third move, legal advice. I booked a free consult with a consumer rights attorney. Ms. Patel. Sharp glasses. Sharp questions. Did you ever co-sign for your sister? She asked. No. Have they threatened to withhold childcare unless you pay? Yes. She nodded. That's not illegal. But identity misuse is. Put a fraud alert on your credit immediately. And do not touch your child's account. Ever. That fund is her legal property. Her words landed heavy but steady. For the first time, I didn't feel crazy. I felt prepared. Fourth move, independence. I told Rick at the warehouse I needed to switch shifts, no more depending on my parents for emergency babysitting. He scribbled a number on a scrap of paper. Maya. He said. Licensed daycare. Doesn't flake. I called her. We met at a park the next day. She brought bubbles and a wagon covered in ladybug stickers. Within 5 minutes, Lila read her. Rate $12 an hour. Reliable. No lectures. No strings attached. Peace isn't free. I realized. But case costs more. For the next week, Sienna kept posting like nothing was wrong. Asparobe. A champagne brunch. Caption healing energy only. 40,000 in debt. Collectors circling. And she was still out spending. Probably using the last card she hadn't maxed yet. She didn't look like someone drowning. She looked like someone who'd convinced herself she'd always be saved. Then came the first crack. Wednesday night. My phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. A soft, chirpy voice left a message. Hi. This is Pam from Northline Collections. We're calling about a balance of $3. 728. 19 for Ms. Sienna Morales. Ethan. You're listed as the alternate contact. Please call us back. Alternate contact. Not cosigner. But still my number. Who put it there? I saved the voicemail. Called back from a Google Voice line. And recorded legal in my state. Miss Patel made sure I knew. How did you get my number? I asked. It's on the account. Who added it? Either the cardholder or an authorized user. So, Sienna, or my parents. Silence. Then we can remove you. Do it. And mark this, I am not a cosigner. Do not contact me again. Click. Saved. Added to the folder. I forwarded the voicemail to my parents with one sentence. Remove my number from her accounts today. Mom replied. We don't know how your number got there. Dad replied, if you don't want calls, pay the debt. That's when it hit me, this wasn't confusion. This was a pattern. 2 days later. The diner called. My shift lead, Janelle, sounded uneasy. Ethan, your sister came by. Said you're unstable. Asked if we do background checks. We told her to leave. Heat flooded my chest. She wasn't just dragging my name into debt. She was coming after my job, my income, my daughter's security. I wrote it all down, date, time, witness. Added it to the folder under a new label, employment interference. When I told Ms. Patel, she said, document everything. If she continues, we'll file a cease and desist. Also, freeze your credit entirely. No new accounts. Period. I froze it with all 3 bureaus that afternoon. 5 minutes later, I got the alert: attempted inquiry. Riverline Furniture. Someone had tried to open an account in my name. It was denied because of the freeze. Not the scare tactic. A cream. I filed an FTC report. Sent the confirmation to Ms. Patel. And called my dad. He answered on the second ring. Someone tried to open credit in my name today. I said evenly. If it was Sienna, stop her. If it was you, stop yourself. Next time, it's the police. A pause. His voice came back. Weary. You're making this bigger than it needs to be. No. I said. You made it bigger when you decided my name and my kid's future were yours to use. I hung up before he could reply. That night, I slipped 2 envelopes through their mail slot. One labeled, for Mom and Dad. One labeled for Sienna. Inside each was a list of nonprofit credit counselors, a 1-page budget template, a draft, cease and desist on employment harassment, a handwritten note. I will not fund this. I will not be threatened. Any attempt to use my identity or contact my employer will be handled legally. Get help. Leave me out. No insults. No fights. Just boundaries. When I got back to the car, I glanced at the passenger seat. Lila's bunny sat there, bent ear covered in a sticker from preschool great listener. For the first time in weeks, I smiled. Maybe it was time they finally listened. 2. I woke up the next morning with a decision. No more reacting. No more defending. From now on, I'd take the first step. First move, protect Lila's money. On my lunch break, I went straight to the credit union. I converted her savings into a 529 plan with me as the custodian, Lila as the beneficiary, plus a UTMA account for future gifts. I locked it with every layer of security, 2-factor, mailing alerts, ID checks. The branch manager, Teresa, leaned in and said quietly, "If anyone tries to touch this, we'll flag it immediately." I walked out lighter. It wasn't much, just $2.400, but it was safe. Second move, information. That night, after Lila fell asleep, I pulled my credit report. Then I walked my parents step by step through how to pull theirs. Not because I cared about helping, but because I wanted a written record. I emailed them the instructions with one line bolded. Do not list my name or number on any of Sienna's accounts. Any attempt to use my identity will be reported. Short. Cold. Undeniable. I started a folder on my desktop and labeled it receipts, screenshots of texts, Venmo requests, photos, timestamps. At first, it looked like random scraps. Then, I saw it for what it really was, a case file. I wasn't just the ignored son anymore. I was building a record. Third move, legal advice. I booked a free consult with a consumer rights attorney. Ms. Patel. Sharp glasses. Sharp questions. Did you ever co-sign for your sister? She asked. No. Have they threatened to withhold childcare unless you pay? Yes. She nodded. That's not illegal. But identity misuse is. Put a fraud alert on your credit immediately. And do not touch your child's account. Ever. That fund is her legal property. Her words landed heavy but steady. For the first time, I didn't feel crazy. I felt prepared. Fourth move, independence. I told Rick at the warehouse I needed to switch shifts, no more depending on my parents for emergency babysitting. He scribbled a number on a scrap of paper. Maya. He said. Licensed daycare. Doesn't flake. I called her. We met at a park the next day. She brought bubbles and a wagon covered in ladybug stickers. Within 5 minutes, Lila adored her. Rate $12 an hour. Reliable. No lectures. No strings attached. Peace isn't free. I realized. But case costs more. For the next week, Sienna kept posting like nothing was wrong. Asparobe. A champagne brunch. Caption, healing energy only. 40,000 in debt. Collectors circling. And she was still out spending. Probably using the last card she hadn't maxed yet. She didn't look like someone drowning. She looked like someone who'd convinced herself she'd always be saved. Then came the first crack. Wednesday night. My phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. A soft, chirpy voice left a message. Hi. This is Pam from Northline Collections. We're calling about a balance of $3. 728. 19 for Miss Sienna Morales. Ethan. You're listed as the alternate contact. Please call us back. Alternate contact. Not co-signer. But still my number. Who put it there? I saved the voicemail. Called back from a Google Voice line. And recorded legal in my state. Ms. Patel made sure I knew. How did you get my number? I asked. It's on the account. Who added it? Either the cardholder or an authorized user. So, Sienna. Or my parents. Silence. Then we can remove you. Do it. And mark this. I am not a co-signer. Do not contact me again. Click. Saved. Added to the folder. I forwarded the voicemail to my parents with one sentence. Remove my number from her accounts today. Mom replied, we don't know how your number got there. Dad replied, if you don't want calls, pay the debt. That's when it hit me this wasn't confusion. This was a pattern. 2 days later, the diner called. My shift lead, Janelle, sounded uneasy. Ethan, your sister came by. Said you're unstable. Asked if we do background checks. We told her to leave. Heat flooded my chest. She wasn't just dragging my name into debt. She was coming after my job, my income, my daughter's security. I wrote it all down: date, time, witness. Added it to the folder under a new label, employment interference. When I told Ms. Patel, she said, document everything. If she continues, we'll file a cease and desist. Also, freeze your credit entirely. Non-new accounts. Period. I froze it with all 3 bureaus that afternoon. 5 minutes later, I got the alert: attempted inquiry. Riverline Furniture. Someone had tried to open an account in my name. It was denied because of the freeze. Not a scare tactic. A crime. I filed an FTC report, sent the confirmation to Ms. Patel, and called my dad. He answered on the second ring. Someone tried to open credit in my name today. I said evenly, if it was Sienna, stop her. If it was you, stop yourself. Next time, it's the police. A pause. His voice came back. Weary. You're making this bigger than it needs to be. No. I said, you made it bigger when you decided my name and my kid's future were yours to use. I hung up before he could reply. That night, I slipped 2 envelopes through their mail slot. One labeled for Mom and Dad. One labeled for Sienna. Inside, each was a list of nonprofit credit counselors, a 1-page budget template, a draft cease and desist on employment harassment, a handwritten note. I will not fund this. I will not be threatened. Any attempt to use my identity or contact my employer will be handled legally. Get help. Leave me out. No insults. No fights. Just boundaries. When I got back to the car, I glanced at the passenger seat. Lila's bunny sat there, bent ear, covered in a sticker from preschool great listener. For the first time in weeks, I smiled. Maybe it was time they finally listened. 2. The pink gift bag sat on my porch like bait. Launer candle inside. Price tag still attached. Furtiotvwa. 95 from Nordstrom. A glittery card read, let's start fresh. Ethan. Family is forever? Sienna? She even staged it for Instagram. Standing there with her phone, pouting for the camera. Guess he's not home. I tried. Everyone? I really did. Some people just don't want peace. From 3 streets away, in my car, I watched it live on my phone. Her followers would eat it up. Poor misunderstood Holden child. Reaching out to her cruel brother. What they didn't know was the trail of collectors. The attempted identity theft. The call to my workplace. That gift bag wasn't peace. It was a prop. I brought it inside, set it on the counter, and stared at it. All glitter. No, wait. That night I called Ms. Patel and sent her the clip. She didn't even flinch. She's crafting a narrative. If she escalates us into defamation, we'll respond. Truth always wins. But only if you're ready to show it. Show it. The word stayed with me. For years. I'd cleaned up quietly. Took the hits. Swallowed the unfairness. But now I had a folder full of dates. Amounts. Screenshots. Voicemails. Not just memories, evidence. And if Sienna wanted a public battle, maybe it was time the truth came out. Monday morning. The storm broke. At the warehouse. I noticed coworkers whispering. By lunch. 3 of them had asked if I'd seen the video. My stomach dropped. Sienna had posted a reel. Clips of her crying into the camera. Mascara streaking. Text overlay. When your own brother lets you drown, family should help family. In the caption, she wrote, I never thought blood could betray me like this. Some people care more about money than family. And then she tagged me. Full name. By noon it had 20,000 views. By dinner, almost 50. One customer at the diner leaned over the counter, phone in hand. Hey. Man, isn't this you? She says you abandoned her. I forced a smile. Ask her credit card company. But inside, fury boiled. She wasn't just spinning lies to friends, she was dragging my name into the algorithm. Fine. Two could play that game. That night, after Lila was asleep, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop. I pulled everything into a slideshow. Not flashy, just facts. Slide 1, screenshot of my parents' text. Stop saving for Lila. Sienna needs help now. Slide 2, Venmo babysitting charge for $180. Slide 3, photo of Sienna at Coachella. Thanks mom and dad. Best gift ever. Slide 4, voicemail from the collector. Timestamped. Slide 5, denied credit inquiry under my name. Slide 6, the DM threatening CPS. Each slide carried a caption in my voice. This isn't about loyalty. It's about manipulation. I'm 26. Raising my daughter alone. My sister owes $40. 000 because of designer bags and vacations. My parents demanded I sacrifice my child's future to clean her mess. When I said no, they threatened me, listed me as her contact without permission, and tried to open credit in my name. Now she's posting videos to paint me as heartless. The final slide was a photo of Lila, asleep with her bunny. A sticker on its ear. Great listener caption. I won't take from her future to pay for someone else's mistakes. I stared at the draft. My finger hovered over post. For a second, doubt crept in. What if people sided with her? What if they called me cruel? Then I remembered the voicemail. The text saying final chance. The threat about CPS. Silence hadn't protected me. It had protected her. So I hit post. By morning, my phone was exploding. Comments, shares, DMs. Thousands of strangers weighed in. Most of them saw the truth. Funny how she's broke, but at a spa 3 days ago. He's got receipts. She's got mascara. Threatening CPS. That's low. Respect to him for standing firm. The tide shifted fast. My video hit 100,000 views in 2 days. By then, Sienna turned her comments off. By the weekend, her profile was private. And then the silence returned, but this time, not from me. From them. My dad sent one message. You didn't have to humiliate us. I typed back. You did that yourselves. I just stopped covering it up. But Sienna wasn't done. Late Thursday night, my phone buzzed with a DM from her account. No mascara. No performance. Just venom. If you don't fix this, I'll make sure everyone knows you're unfit to be a father. Imagine if CPS knew you can't even afford daycare without mom and dad. My hands went cold. She wasn't just smearing me online. She was threatening my child. I screenshotted it, saved it to the receipts folder, and sent it to Miss Patel. Her reply came minutes later. That message is actionable. Do not respond. We move forward. The next day, Rick at the warehouse pulled me aside. You look lighter. Problem solved. Not yet, I said, but it's about to be. Because now it wasn't just about defending myself. It was about ending this game once and for all. By Friday, the damage was everywhere. At the diner, customers whispered. At the warehouse, coworkers sent me links with pity in their eyes. Sienna's smear campaign had spread like wildfire. Heartless brother refuses to save family. But what she didn't realize was her performance had handed me the perfect stage for the truth. I'd already posted my video. The difference, I had receipts. Saturday morning, the doorbell rang. My camera lit up. Outside stood my parents, mom with her arms crossed, dad stone-faced, Sienna right behind them with her phone lifted. Already recording. They wanted another scene. I didn't open the door. Mom raised her voice for the camera. Ethan, we're here because you've twisted the story. We never asked you to sacrifice your daughter. We only asked you to be compassionate. Sienna is family. You're supposed to protect her. Sienna's voice cracked. Perfectly timed. You don't know what it's like to feel abandoned by your own brother. Upstairs, Lila asked, Daddy, why's Aunt Cece outside? I crouched down. Because she's making a movie. Sweetheart. But we don't have to watch it. By the time I turned the music up and came back down, they were gone. But by afternoon, the video was up online. Captioned, even after we begged. He refuses. Some people choose money over blood. That was the last straw. I posted my full thread, the slides, the evidence, the threats. No tears. No drama. Just the facts. Within hours. The internet made its choice. Funny how she's drowning in debt but still at spas. He's literally raising a kid alone. What does she contribute? Threatening CPS. That's unforgivable. My video hit 500,000 views in a weekend. Her comments flooded with backlash until she locked down her accounts completely, and for the first time in my life, the story wasn't twisted in her favor. People saw me. Not the serious, uptight son. Not the too hard older brother. They saw a father protecting his daughter. By Monday, my parents finally broke the silence. A single text from Dad. You didn't have to humiliate us. I typed slowly, choosing every word. You humiliated yourselves. I just stopped covering it up. I hit send and felt something lift off my chest. The fallout was fast. My parents withdrew. Embarrassed. No more calls. No more ultimatums. Sienna vanished from social media, posting vague notes about mental health and taking time offline. In town, the whispers shifted. No one asked me if I'd abandoned my sister anymore. Now, they shook their heads at the way she'd been enabled. But the real victory wasn't online. It was at home. One night, as I tucked Lila in, she looked up at me with her bunny clutched tight. Daddy, are we okay? I kissed her forehead. Yeah. Bug. We're more than okay. We're free. She smiled, eyes drifting closed. And I realized that peace didn't come from proving myself to my parents. It came from breaking the cycle. Weeks passed. I worked both jobs. Transferred that same $300 every month into her account. The balance climbed to $3. 0, 0, 0 and rising. Maya became our steady sitter. The house felt quiet for the first time in years, quiet, but safe. And that's when I understood revenge didn't look like screaming matches or slammed doors. Revenge looked like exposure. Like refusing to be manipulated. Like building a future they could never touch. Revenge looked like Lila's smile. Sometimes, late at night, I wonder if I went too far, airing everything online. But then I look at my daughter asleep with her bunny and I know I didn't go too far. I went far enough. Story 2. My wife's parents forced me sign a bad prenup. Then their wife cheats on me and they go bankrupt. So her parents' greedy prenup totally screws her over. Well done. Reddit. This is the tale of how my 20-year wife cheated and was ruined by the same prenuptial agreement that her parents made me sign. My kids use Reddit. So throw away. This is what happened. Imagine this. Then, I was a 8-year-old man who dated Fiona for 2 years, 20 years ago. Fall deeply and foolishly in love. I recently received a promotion to logistics coordinator at a manufacturing plant. So I think I'm hot. Living in a studio apartment with a Murphy bed. Earning a respectable living. And operating a Honda that was essentially a glorified closet on wheels. Her parents are at the other extreme of the spectrum. Dad is a finance guy who wears glasses that are more expensive than my rent each month. For safety, Mom replaces her Mercedes every 3 years. They reside in a community where every home seems to have been created by the same architect, who has a strong affinity for circular drives and columns. I wear a button-down shirt from Target and my nicest khakis when I first meet them. It seems like a job interview when her dad shakes my hand. Like I work in a coal mine. He replies, "You must be the operations fellow, buddy." I don't mind diamonds with my own hands. I manage logistics. This entire thing was dinner. Water in crystal cups. As if we were having dinner with the queen. 3 forks. 3 forks. Who needs them? Her mother inquires about my financial portfolio and 5-year strategy. I'm investing $20 in a savings account and praying my vehicle doesn't break down. Lady, this is where it becomes interesting. However, at a family cookout around 6 months prior to my proposal, her father takes me aside. He proceeds to say, "Son, I want to talk to you about protecting assets." I'm thinking he's going to give me stock tips or something. No. The guy pulls out this leather portfolio, not a folder, and begins discussing prenuptial agreements as if he were trying to sell me a timeshare. He believes it's simply good business. It only protects all parties. Nothing personal. I'm not a fool. So when I do propose, it will be funded over a period of 18 months. I'm invited over to talk with her folks. Once again, I arrive expecting to discuss wedding locations or whatever. There they are. Their crazy lawyer. Sitting at the kitchen table with a binder. It was a 3-ring binder with tabs and everything. Not a folder or some papers. It seemed to be capable of launching missiles. The lawyer is speaking in that monotonous voice that attorneys employ to appear polite just before they swindle you. He slides the binder over the table as if it were a peace treaty and adds, "This is just standard protection for both parties." It's like reading stereo instructions from someone who despises enjoyment as I flick through this stuff. Blue tape separate property. Maintenance waiver. The red tab. It ought to have served as a warning. Clause about infidelity. Orange tab. They did indeed go there. Inheritance safeguards. Green tab. The thing even had a table of contents. Her dad sitting there pretending like this is entirely normal. Like every engagement comes with its own legal seminar. It's really quite simple. He adds, "What's yours stays yours. What's hers stays hers." Clean and straightforward. The infidelity clause was my favorite part. If either party cheats and it can be proven by preponderance of evidence, fancy lawyers speak for, "Yeah, we're pretty sure you did it," that person forfeits any claim to attorney's fees. Her mom literally says, "Well, if nobody's planning to cheat, it shouldn't matter." Right. With this smile that could freeze hellfire. Thanks for the vote of confidence. Karen, I'm sitting there like, "Are you serious right now?" But out loud? I just go, okay. I guess that makes sense. Then comes the ultimatum delivered by her dad with all the warmth of a parking ticket. Either this is signed before to the wedding, or it doesn't happen. Direct negotiations for hostages. The princess must either remain in the tower or sign. That night, I was so furious that I contacted my friend Bill. "Dude, they want me to sign a contract as if I were purchasing a home rather than getting married to Fiona." Bill's answer, "Bro, who gives a CO? If you're certain you won't cheat and you're not chasing her money, sign the contract and get married." I think this counsel to be inexpensive. Guy works from a strip mall located between a metro and a nail shop. He tells me it's aggressive but not against the law. Typical things for wealthy folks. Are you at ease using the terms I'm considering my age 28? I earn a respectable salary. I adore this chick. Furthermore, I have no intention of stealing or cheating anybody. How difficult could it be? Yes. Of course. In any case, those are famous final words. Thus, we were married. Lovely wedding. Despite the fact that Fiona's parents managed every aspect as if they were organizing the Normandy assault. A DJ was what I wanted. A string quartet was engaged. I want an open bar. They chose trademark drinks that were unpronounceable. But whatever. It was the girl, not the wedding, that I married. In fact, life was rather wonderful during the first several years. We moved into this little starter house in the suburbs. 3 bedrooms. 2 baths. Built in the 80 seconds when everyone thought beige was the height of sophistication. But it had a garage. A yard. And neighbors who minded their own business. Perfect. Then the kids started coming. Claire first. Then Nate 2 years later. Then Luke 2 years after that. Then Julia. 4 kids in 8 years because apparently we didn't own a TV or birth control or self-control. My wife wanted to stay home with them, and it made sense. So, I became the workhorse. Getting up at 5:30. Hitting the gym before work because it was the only hour of the day that belonged to me. Promotions came steady. Logistics coordinator. Supply chain analyst. Logistics supervisor. Supply chain manager. Each step up meant more responsibility. More hours. More, but also more money. I was that guy who actually read the employee handbook. Maxed out my 401k contribution. Learned every system inside and out. Not because I loved work, but because I understood math. More hours equals more money, equals a better life for the family. The house became our project. Spent weekends at Home Depot, learning how to install ceiling fans and fix leaky faucets because hiring contractors for every little thing is how you stay broke. YouTube University taught me more about home maintenance than my dad ever did. The weeknight routine was clockwork. Come home. Help with homework. Eat dinner. Bath time for whoever was small enough to need it. Read bedtime stories. Collapse on the couch. Weekends were soccer games. Birthday parties. Grocery runs. And whatever home improvement project I'd convinced myself I could finish in one afternoon. The mortgage refinancing was beautiful. Though, rates dropped. We had equity. Credit score was solid. Went from a 30-year to a 15-year. Payment barely changed. That move probably saved us $100. 000 over the life of the loan. I was considered a genius by Fiona. During this time, her parents were bearable. They would come over. We give the kids ostentatious presents they didn't need, and say, in a tone that was anything but charming, that the neighborhood was charming. However, they appeared to agree with our approach. Her father even once gave my lawn a compliment. A man who hires someone else to mow his lawn is highly commended. The prenuptial agreement turned into a strange family joke. I would simply smile and shift the conversation. Thank God you two signed that thing. Her mom would say at Christmas dinner. Keeps everything simple. Her dad would nod as if it were his greatest accomplishment. Right up there with inventing fire. She managed that household like a military operation, knowing every child's teacher, every friend's parent, and every scheduling conflict 3 months in advance. I took care of the finances, the upkeep, and the planning, while Fiona took care of the logistics, the social issues, and the emotional labor. I'll give her credit for being a good mother. Through every bonus, tax refund, an extra dollar at that mortgage, as if it owed us money. We paid off the house 3 years ago, 12 years ahead of the original 30-year schedule, and on track with the 15-year refi. The kids were doing well. The house was ours. Work was steady. Money was steady. And problems and solutions were normal. When her parents' money started to disappear and things started to go awry, I thought we had it worked out. Around the 15th year of our marriage, I began to notice changes in her parents, which were subtle at first, like them no longer talking about their most recent trip or the new car. A bad year in the markets became their go-to excuse for everything. Their country club membership temporarily lapsed. The Mercedes was traded for a Honda. The vacation house in the mountains was sold to make things simpler. And her dad then began questioning me about my 401k strategy and whether I believed gold was a wise hedge against inflation. It turns out that having money makes it easier to play the rich guy. Her dad, who used to talk about money like he was Warren Buffett's smarter brother, suddenly wanted to talk about conservative investment strategies and protecting principal. In other words, he was scared shitless and had no idea what he was doing. They still made an effort to maintain appearances, but you could see the cracks. It turned out that they had invested heavily in an investment scheme that sounded too good to be true because it was. It involved emerging markets and promised returns. And when it failed, they lost the majority of their liquid assets. Numerous lawsuits followed. Legal fees ate what the bad investments didn't. These weren't strip mall lawyers charging $300 for document review. These were white shoe firms billing $800 an hour to argue over who was responsible for what. Her dad was on both sides of some nasty legal lawsuits. One against the guys who sold him the bad investments, and another against other investors who felt he should have known better. It was difficult for my wife, who had grown up believing her parents were financially secure, to see them fighting over money they had already lost, and now shopping at Target rather than Nordstrom. It wasn't a tragedy. But for someone who had never witnessed her parents' financial troubles, it was like watching Superman get kicked in the ass. Family is family. So I understood that she began spending more time helping her parents, which really meant sitting around their house complaining about lawyers and reminiscing about the good old days. However, it also meant that she was homeless, less involved, and less present, and that the children were growing older and more self-sufficient. When my wife was restless and the intense hands-on parenting phase was coming to an end, the finding herself phase began. Claire was in college. Nate was in high school. Luke was in middle school. And Julia was also in high school. Don't Wait Up became her go-to fare when I got home from work and she was rushing out to some meeting, class, or event. It started out as a book club that met during the day, followed by yoga classes, pottery classes, and some volunteer work at the art museum. All of this was completely normal, but she was treating it like a full-time job. When I asked my wife why she was not coming home, she would become defensive and say, "I spent 15 years raising your children and running your house. Now I want to do something for me." Like I'd been holding her prisoner or something. Okay. So I would take care of dinner with the kids, help with homework, and do bedtime routine before sitting on the couch wondering when the hell she was coming home. She would make dinner and then pretend that she had done surgery. And I would fix the garbage disposal and receive a lecture about how I never noticed the things she did around the house. I believe that everyone should have hobbies. But hobbies don't usually involve staying out until midnight 3 nights a week. But apparently I wasn't emotionally present enough. I tried the date night thing. Hired babysitters. Made reservations. Bought flowers. But it felt forced. Like we were both performing instead of connecting. Meanwhile, I'm working 50 hours a week handling all the finances, maintaining the house, and still showing up for every important kid event. Your favorite line was, "You take me for granted." The sex also dried up around this time, going from regular to occasional to special occasions only. When I brought it up, she would say she was tired, stressed, or not feeling appreciated. It was the classic catch-22. Can't feel close because we're not having sex. Can't have sex because we don't feel close. I own my part in this. She would spend half the dinner texting or talking about whatever drama was going on in her art museum volunteer group. I thought that if I continued to take care of my obligations, everything else would take care of itself. However, the thing that irritates me is that I was still showing up, working, paying my bills, fixing, and being a father. I coasted on autopilot for too long. She was doing something else, but I didn't know what yet. The really screwed up part was that her parents began to warm up to me during this time. I wasn't perfect, but I wasn't checked out either. I was doing what I thought marriage was supposed to be: partnership, teamwork, building something together. They had always put up with me, but now they were genuinely friendly, asking me about my job, complimenting the house, and expressing their pride in the family we had created. Her father even said something along the lines of, "You've really given our daughter stability." In the modern world, that is difficult. It was strange coming from a man who used to pretend that I was fortunate to share his daughter's heir. You know how the guy in a movie always discovers the affair in a dramatic way, discovering a love letter, seeing them at a restaurant, or walking in on them? Real life, however, is far more dull. She was upstairs getting ready for another of her yoga nights when I heard her phone buzzing on the kitchen counter. After dinner, I was cleaning up when I noticed a notification appear on the screen. Let's just say it wasn't from her freaking yoga instructor, because the preview featured a photo I won't explain and a name I didn't recognize. I refrained from confronting her right away. I didn't make a scene, yell, or throw. Like any competent operations manager, I took action. I began to record. Our online cell phone account was the first thing we looked at. Since we have a family plan, I can view usage data. 3 months worth of data provided a fairly clear picture. During work hours, I received a lot of calls and texts from a number I didn't recognize. Once you knew what to look for, the pattern became clear. I then looked at our credit card bills. The things you miss when you're not looking for them are amazing. Lunches at restaurants for business. She was allegedly at her book club, but I had never heard of hotel fees downtown. Coffee, the snacks, small purchases at hotel gift shops, and other items you buy to pass the time between room service and round 2. The real treasure trove was finding my iPhone. Why would she turn off location sharing? She had never done so. Aren't we married? There are no secrets, other than the fact that her book club met in the afternoons at a guy's apartment complex and that her yoga studio reportedly relocated to the Marriott downtown. Everything was printed by me. Created a chronology that would envy a prosecutor. Everything: dates, times, places, expenses was organized in a folder. It turned out that the man was a divorced man she had met while volunteering. Kids every other weekend. A recent separation, the full midlife crisis package. He posted inspirational quotes about living authentically and photos of his motorcycle on social media with relative ease. A true thinker. It's unlikely that this one has any regrets inked anywhere. What I already knew was validated by 3 weeks of surveillance. She had a whole other life that I was unaware of, which included yoga on Tuesdays and Thursdays, book club on Mondays, and girls' night on Fridays. All those arguments about not feeling valued, all those late nights, and all those enigmatic new interests. I had been delivering flowers to a funeral in an attempt to salvage a marriage that was already over. The following morning, I made a call to a lawyer. I brought a copy of our prenuptial agreement and my evidence folder into the room. While I sat there, she went over everything. "You've suspected for how long?" she inquired. It took about a month to be certain. 6 months of wondering. Perhaps. Excellent documentation. Interesting prenuptial agreement. After the youngest turns 18, maintenance is waived. And this lawyer's fee infidelity clause. It's not common language. It was written by her parents' attorney. She smiled. Their lawyer, who is 17 years old, recently became your closest friend. And this degree of proof. You're in a very good position. Whether you want to litigate or settle is the question. What's the distinction? Settlement is less expensive and quicker. Litigation is more costly and takes longer. However, you would most likely receive all of your rights. plus legal fees from her side. Given this prenuptial agreement and your supporting documentation, I gave it 10 seconds or so of thought. How quickly can papers be served? 2 weeks. Do it correctly if you wish to do this. I had a new perspective on my house when I drove home that afternoon. 20 years of regular family life, weekend projects, and mortgage payments. We had argued over who should take out the trash, celebrated birthdays, and reared our children there. The place now had the feel of a museum of a life that had already ended. However, I wasn't depressed about it. I was furious. She had made me feel like I was the issue when she was the one with a secret boyfriend. And it wasn't just about the lying, cheating, and manipulation. Regarding the years I squandered attempting to mend something she had already damaged. What really got me? She continued to act as though nothing had changed when she returned home each night. I'm still griping about the dishes. You're still inquiring about my day. Continuing to portray the loving mother and wife. She probably thought I was a complete, or she was a sociopath. As it should be. The children were completely unaware. They were juggling their own school pals, college applications, and typical adolescent issues. Knowing that their mother was having an affair with a divorced loser who rides a motorcycle to volunteer meetings was the last thing they needed. I maintained the appearance of normalcy, as attended Nate's wrestling matches nonetheless. Luke was still assisted with his college essays. Pancakes were still prepared on Saturday mornings. On the inside, though, I was tracking the days until the sheriff would arrive at our door carrying a manila envelope that would make all the difference. 2 weeks seemed to last forever. But the day finally arrived. When it occurred, I was at work. In particular, my lawyer texted me while I was in a meeting discussing Q1 supplier performance metrics at 2:47 p.m. The service was finished. With my stomach in knots, I wrapped up the meeting, packed up a few things, and drove home knowing that the next few hours would be an epic show. About 5:30, I pulled into the driveway. The presence of her car indicated that she had been served and was presumably sitting inside making calls to every divorce attorney listed in the phone book. It would be an hour before the children returned home. The timing was ideal. She was sitting at the kitchen table, solving a jigsaw puzzle with a piece of paper spread out in front of her when I walked in the front door. She had red eyes, smudged makeup, and tissues all over the place. For a moment, I nearly felt guilty. The feeling subsided when I recalled the hotel fees. She looked up at me and asked, "Really? Do you want to handle things this way? Papers served by a sheriff as if I were a criminal. Have you gone crazy? It's just the way these things operate." Nothing personal. Nothing personal. 4 children and 20 years of marriage are nothing personal. Do you even hear yourself? I put my keys on the counter and turned to face her. This woman was the mother of my children. Someone I had loved, trusted, and built a life with. Now, she was just another issue to deal with. I told her that we could handle this the easy way or the hard way. "I know about Jason," I said calmly. "I know about everything." Her face went white. "Usted." That was when the waterworks really started. She cried, apologized, begged for counseling, and swore it didn't mean anything. The entire performance might have been convincing if I hadn't seen the evidence with my own eyes. "Stop. Just stop." I held up my hand. "All communication now goes through the attorneys. You can't be serious. We have children together. We can work this out. No more lies. No more gaslighting. No more acting like I was the crazy one for thinking something was wrong. No. It's not what you think. You can't throw everything away over one mistake. Watch me. You crossed the line. Now deal with the consequences. 20 years. Doesn't that count for exactly the same thing? Fiona, the kids and I will be fine. We're both going to be fine. But we're not working anything out." The kids came home one by one, starting with Julia, who bounced in from soccer practice, dirty and happy. And then Nate, who was arguing with someone on his phone about something that happened at school. I went upstairs, changed clothes, came back downstairs, and started preparing dinner as if nothing had happened. She was crying and calling her parents, her sister, and probably a few lawyers, for a few minutes. It felt like any other Tuesday night, except that their mom was sitting at the kitchen table looking like someone had died. And I was stirring pasta sauce while mentally calculating how to divide 20 years of accumulated stuff into 2 separate lives. Finally, Luke, exhausted from his shift at the restaurant where he worked part-time, was in the middle of the usual family chaos. with someone asking what's for dinner and another complaining about homework. Your mom and I are separating, I said. No build-up. No sugarcoating. And I waited until after dinner before asking everyone to sit down at the table. We will no longer be living together. But it's not because of anything you did. And it doesn't alter how much we love you. Quiet. Julia burst into tears at once. Even at the age of 17. She was the family's baby. She continued to think her parents were unbeatable. Nate became irate first. Dad. What the devil suddenly? It's not unexpected. I've been having issues with your mom for a long time. So, Luke said. Fix them. Up until that point, he had been silent. But now he was staring at me as if I had just declared my intention to join the circus. Figure it out. Married people do just that. I informed them that some issues cannot be resolved. One of them is this. More questions. More rage. More tears. I followed the script. Issues that we cannot resolve. I adore you all. For you? Nothing changes. Details will be worked out. I assured them that I would continue to attend all of their events, including concerts and games. I kept the reason a secret from them. Even though they were legally old enough to vote, they were still children. And the lying, cheating, and evidence that was in my lawyer's office were all adult matters. Fiona simply sat there in tears, remained silent, did not attempt to defend herself, place the blame on me, or assure the children that we would resolve the issue. Perhaps she realized at last that there was nothing she could do about it. She tried everything over the next few days. Weeping, pleading, ogling, and threatening. She called my best friend, my brother, my parents, and anybody else she thought might persuade me to change my mind. She made about 50 recommendations for counseling. She vowed to break up with Jason. It didn't matter. I had used my intellect, not my emotions, to make my choice. It was already past the hard part. Had lasted for months or even years. It was just logistics now. I started living like a tenant in my own home after moving into the guest bedroom. Keep everything separate, including meals and schedules. The children adapted more quickly than I anticipated. When the need arises, teenagers are incredibly resilient. Then, however, she began to use them as messengers. Inform Dad that we ought to try counseling. Inform Dad that he is being uncooperative. Tell Dad that he is causing harm to the family. Traditional deception, intended to place me in an impossible situation. I was dragging the children into adult issues if I answered their questions. I appeared to be a who didn't give a damn about his family if I didn't answer. She was fully aware of her actions. I transitioned from separation to full divorce at that point. The gloves come off when someone tries to use your children as a weapon against you. The plans for Julia's 18th birthday were to be straightforward, because she was anxious about ESATs and didn't want a big show. She had specifically asked for low-key. I ought to have been more aware. Simple and drama-free are diametrically opposed ideas in my family. The first hour went smoothly. We were able to have casual discussions about Luke's summer vacation plans, Nate's wrestling season, and Julia's classes. Dad kept staring at me strangely. But even my in-laws were good behaved. Claire and her boyfriend were present. He is a decent man, but he exudes the anxious vibes of someone who has just entered a family crisis and is unsure of which way the grenades are coming from. Astuta Jungsta. Most likely the only one who accurately reads the room. We placed an order for pizza from Julia's favorite restaurant. Julia appeared content, which was the main goal. Being the youngest and still living at home, she has likely been the most impacted by all of this. My wife then made the decision to make a toast, with a look in her eyes that indicated she was going to say something that would make everyone uneasy. She got up and drank her Diet Coke. I tried to get her attention by shaking my head and saying, "Don't freaking do this here." She was in full performance mode already. Though, I simply want to express how amazing it is to have the entire family present on such a significant day. She looks around the table as if she's being presented with a prize. The most important thing is family. And I hope that no matter what obstacles we encounter, we can always find a way to remain close. Dead quiet. Everyone understood her true meaning. Setting down his fork, Nate gazed at her as if she had just begun to speak German. Luke moved around in his seat. Julia's cheeks flushed. Nate said softly, "Mom, don't do this. Please. Not this evening." Claire, however, was unable to ignore it. Why is it bad to want the family to remain together, as usual? She jumped to her mother's defense when she asked, She is merely expressing her love for us. At that moment, Julia sweet, quiet, trouble-avoidant Julia set down her pizza slice and turned to face her older sister. Stop, Claire. In reality, you don't want the family to remain intact. You simply do not want anyone to discover that you have been assisting your mother in concealing her affair. The ensuing quiet was so total that I could hear the kitchen refrigerator humming. My in-laws appeared to have been struck by a stun gun. Luke's jaw dropped. Nate's gaze widened. The boyfriend, who hardly knew anyone, even appeared uneasy. My wife opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. Like a fish, she simply opened and closed her mouth. Claire began to sob and stutter denials. But Julia wasn't finished. I'm not dumb, she added. The lies about Mom's whereabouts have been known to me for months. The texts that were removed. When Dad asked questions, you would pretend to be her, while everyone acted as though nothing was wrong. I've been watching this family disintegrate. I'm sick of it. 2. She left the table after that and went to her room. The room blew up. Claire sobs. Fiona is attempting to clarify, demanding to know what the hell was going on were my in-laws. Luke requested that someone explain the situation to him. Nate sat there, seemingly convinced that Santa Claus was real, but a serial killer as well. I got up, picked up my keys, and walked into the room as if I were calling off a particularly ineffective staff meeting. The party is over. Now everyone must go. It took me roughly 3 minutes to get out of the house. I didn't say goodbye to my in-laws before they left. Still in tears, Claire walked away, pulling her bewildered boyfriend with her. Nate went to his room, most likely to try to figure out what the heck just happened and to text his friends. I told Fiona to go spend the night at her parents' house even though she wanted to stay and chat. Our lawyers will handle the fallout tomorrow. I discovered Julia in her room, sitting on her bed and appearing worn out. I apologized to her for ruining her birthday. She said, "It's not ruined. Simply put, I'm sick of people acting like they're not. Having everything in the open feels better." Clever child. You've known for how long? I inquired. Since the previous summer. I saw my mother's car at a guy's apartment complex when I got home early from soccer camp. She lied when I questioned her about it afterwards. Then I began to listen to the other lies. How come you didn't tell me? She gave a shrug. What should I have said, Dad? Hello? Mom may be cheating on you. In my opinion, you all had to work it out on your own. I gave her a hug and assured her that she was the greatest thing her mother and I had ever done together. After that, I went downstairs to reflect on how an 8-year-old had just demonstrated greater maturity than any of her relatives. Around midnight, Nate discovered me in the kitchen. How long have you known about Mom cheating? He inquired. A few months. Claire was aware of this. It seems that he gave it some thought. Dad. That's up. I said language out of habit before realizing how absurd it was in the situation. However, it is quite up. I didn't speak to Claire again for 6 months after that. I couldn't trust her anymore. Not as a form of punishment or cruelty. Someone loses access to you when they decide to engage in dishonest behavior that ruins their family. It's as easy as that. It was referred to as harsh by some. I referred to it as having boundaries. So, 8 months later, here we are. Discovery is complete. Negotiations for a settlement are not progressing. And every time my lawyer looks at our case file, she practically drools. It's a lovely irony. To shield their fortune from a son-in-law who was interested in gold mining, her parents spent an unspecified amount of money on that prenuptial agreement. Then their wealth was gone. Their daughter then cheated. The same prenuptial agreement is now betraying her. This is how everything is trembling. Alimony for maintenance was fully waived. No spousal support after the youngest child turns 18 is expressly stated in the prenuptial agreement. That window slammed shut because Julia had just turned 18. Legal fees. She gets to pay her own legal bills while I get mine paid, because of the infidelity clause in my evidence folder. According to my lawyer, she has already spent $30,000 on lawyers. I will get back the approximately 8 sesh 000 that I have spent. The house is where the good stuff happens. We are the sole owners. Just a paid-off house worth roughly $400. 000 with no mortgage or loans. We divide equity less any post-separation carrying costs. According to the prenuptial agreement, since we split up, I've been covering all of the maintenance, insurance, utilities, and property taxes. I can deduct those carrying costs from her equity share, which comes to about $3,000 a month. In offsets and counting, 8 months times 3. 0 equals 24. Ling ling ling. She can't afford to buy me out. But she wants to keep the house. No credit. No income. Parents don't have any money. The bank isn't exactly eager to offer a $200,000 mortgage to a 8-year-old woman who has never held a job. Accounts for retirement. My pre-marriage $401k remains fully mine. Since I've been making maximum contributions for 20 years, the majority of the value is premarital or post-separation. But the growth during marriage is divided by formula. She may have about 40. 0 inches retirement funds. Everything else. Vehicles, furniture, and personal belongings. In addition to what we can agree upon, we each keep what we brought to the marriage. There isn't much to fight over. It's easy math. After deducting her half of the offsets, she may receive about $200. 0 from the sale of the house. Sisher. 0 from her car. Retirement funds. And any furniture she purchased. Walking away. The total net worth was about $220. Ling ling ling. It's not bad for someone who hasn't had a job for 20 years. But not enough to sustain the way of life she's become accustomed to. It's definitely not enough to continue volunteering at wine club and dating motorcycle-wielding men. 200 yuan. 0 from the house. My car. My retirement funds. And no further financial commitments to someone who chose to ruin our marriage. In addition, I get to continue earning a good living while she tries to figure out what 8-year-old women with liberal arts degrees do for a living. Her parents kept trying to get involved, saying we should think about the kids or figure something out. But they were completely losing there. Her father even had the audacity to call me and say that, considering our long-standing family relationship, I was being unduly harsh. You treated me like a hired hand for 20 years. Dude, we're not exactly brothers by blood. I informed him that he had come up with the prenuptial agreement, that his lawyer had drafted the terms, and that I was simply letting their contract do its thing. He ended the call. The fact that Fiona has moved in with her parents must be a unique kind of hell for all of them. 3 impoverished people living together and pointing the finger at one another for their predicament. Everyone was upset with me for having the gall to enforce the prenuptial agreement. Her parents were upset with her for cheating, and she was upset with them for it. Claire continues to try to mediate the situation by texting me about forgiveness in the family and the fact that everyone makes mistakes. I don't answer. Maybe I'll listen to her over coffee when this is all over. She's still team mom right now, though, and I don't want to be run by a 2-year-old who assisted in hiding an affair. The 3 other children are doing well. Nate is having a fantastic wrestling season. Julia made the honor roll once more. And Luke was accepted to his first-choice college. Compared to adults, they have all adapted to the new normal more easily. They understand. We are going to trial. Her attorney continues to make settlement offers that disregard the terms of the prenuptial agreement. They are constantly reminded by my lawyer that contracts are what they say. We'll let a judge decide it unless she comes to terms with reality soon. The court doesn't concern me. Judges witness this on a daily basis. We have a paper trail that could choke a horse. A clear contract. And copious proof of infidelity. My lawyer texted me just as I was finishing up this update. The lawyer for my ex-wife called to talk about a reasonable settlement plan that takes into account the terms of the prenuptial agreement. Translation. After reading the contract, they realized they were in serious trouble. However, it was too late. I had finished negotiating with those who had been attempting to alter reality for months. We had a trial. The prenuptial agreement. My evidence folder. And Fiona's attorney's attempt to prove that a 4-month affair wasn't truly infidelity were all examined by the judge. Additionally, you were able to witness her decision in real time. My attorney presented the evidence as if she were giving executives a PowerPoint presentation, credit card statements, location information, hotel receipts, cell phone records, and hundreds of pages of paperwork. The typical, unfair contract. Changed circumstances was what Fiona's side tried. Consider the kids. Her parents sobbed as they testified that they never intended the prenuptial agreement to be so severe and that its purpose was to serve as a deterrent. Jason was then called as a witness. The man arrived with the appearance of someone who would much rather have a root canal. He essentially confirmed everything under oath. The hotels, the schedule, everything. Her attorney questioned whether he coerced her into having the affair. In fact, Jason chuckled when he claimed that she was the one who had followed him. Very romantic. Fiona tried the moment of weakness defense during her testimony. Sobbed during Q. And discussed feeling undervalued. She broke down. However, when my lawyer began to question her about the lies, all the specific lies she told me and the children, she had to acknowledge that she had lied about her visits to Jason's apartment and involved Claire. The judge made a decision quickly, returned from recess, and essentially stated that contracts mean what they say. The prenuptial agreement was unambiguous, and the evidence was overwhelming. Complete prenuptial enforcement. Oh. And Fiona gets to pay the lawyers for both sides. A total of about $45. Ling ling ling. Because of the infidelity clause, the results were exactly what you would have expected. Per the prenuptial agreement, the house was sold and the assets were divided. Everything went according to the terms of the contract. After all the offsets I'd been accruing, Fiona left the house with roughly $180. Ling ling ling. Possibly $38. 000 from her car, retirement accounts, and any furniture she desired. A significant portion of her settlement was then lost when she was hit with a $45 won. 000 legal bill. I kept my car. All of my retirement funds. 220美元. 000 from the house. And no further commitments to a man who chose to exchange 20 years of marriage for meetings in hotel rooms. Here's where it really shines. Though, Jason left her 2 weeks after the trial. It turns out that using real forbidden fruit makes hitting a married woman much more exciting. She used to be just another broke divorce with money troubles. And the guy who loved poetry abruptly stopped caring about her. Fiona began living in her childhood bedroom while working retail at a department store for $12 per hour. In order to cover her legal expenses, her parents had to sell their home. However, their debt exceeded its value. Ultimately took out a loan against their remaining equity in order to pay the lawyer's fees. The children are doing well. Julia's college crush. Nate joined the wrestling varsity. Luke has a plan for his career. They visit their mother whenever they feel like it. But they don't want to act like nothing is wrong when it isn't. After I ignored her for about 6 months, Claire finally gave up trying to be a family counselor. All of us ought to pardon one another's texts. Some bridges burn on their own, while others are burned by you. Reddit. That's it. I signed a contract 21 years ago that I didn't think would ever be important. As it happens, it was the best legal document I have ever signed. Her parents' avaricious prenuptial agreement completely ruined her. Life is good. Story 2. We're on vacation. At the family gathering, Dad said, "We're expecting a visit from our lawyer." Since I had declined to co-sign a $220 000 loan for my golden child sister store, I refrained from arguing. They woke up to frozen accounts the following morning after I just nodded and turned away. We're on vacation. Anticipate our lawyer's arrival. Like a scalpel. Dad's voice sliced through the room. Around the table, his icy, unwavering eye was locked on me. Fork stopped. In midair. Discussions ended. Mom pretended not to see Jenna and turned her attention to her meal. With a contented smile on her lips, my sister leaned back. Jenna maintained that opening a boutique would finally allow her to be independent. But I refused to co-sign a $220 000 loan for her next bright endeavor. However, I was aware of the reality. As the family's golden child, Jenna was impervious to wrongdoing. Every credit card maxed out. Every company that collapsed. The problem is always someone else's. Mina forever. Dad didn't inquire. I made a demand. Michael, just sign it. Family members help one another. Not in this manner. I had stated, maintaining a steady tone. Quiet. The storm followed. Dad's face flushed. Following everything we've done for you. Done for me. It nearly made me chuckle. I reflected about the bills I paid when Jenna's last business failed and the mortgage I had paid for their home. The never-ending crises that always appeared to be my issue. I didn't list any of it. Though, I simply stood there in silence as Jenna's eyes welled up with tears. It was an instantly recognizable performance. You didn't give a damn about me. You never stood by me. Then, as usual, the silent collaborator said, "Mom, please. Michael, she's your sister." Naturally. While I worked 2 jobs. She was the sibling who partied through college. I paid for the repairs after my sister's automobile was wrecked. While I just gave. The sister took and took and took. I gave them a look. I had spent years attempting to support and please this family. Finally, I caught a glimpse of it. I wasn't considered family by them. I was a wallet. A safety net. Dad's voice rang out when he stood up during the reunion. We're on vacation. Anticipate our lawyer's arrival. It wasn't unexpected. It was only a worn-out play's last act. I didn't argue. Though, I didn't stand up for myself. I simply nodded, got up, and left. And when they awoke the following morning, their accounts were frozen. However, that was only the start. I believed that the accounts being frozen would serve as sufficient warning. I was mistaken. At 7:15 a.m., the first call was placed. Dad's phone number. After 10 seconds, I let it ring. One more call. Then another. I made myself a cup of coffee after turning off my phone and throwing it on the kitchen counter. I had finished rushing to clean up their mess. My mom's email appeared in the subject line of my work email at 8 a.m. How were you able to? Out of morbid curiosity, I opened it. Please. Michael, there is a miscommunication here. We can resolve this. But your father is unhappy. Give us a call. Please make this right. I always did it that way. Was it not? I didn't respond. So I closed the email. They were desperate by midday. This time, it was another email from Jenna. Everything is damaged by you. You are the reason my shop is dead. I'm not even allowed to handle the money. I drank my coffee and grinned. No. Jenna, like all the previous schemes you came up with while I was taking care of the expenses, your boutique was doomed because it was always a fantasy. However, it continued. Dad texted her at 3 p.m. I'm not sure what you did, but you'll pay the price if you don't take action right away. The family group chat turned into a war by the evening. Michael, please speak to us. Mom, Jen, he is a traitor. I've always been disliked by him. Boy, you've gone too far. Dad, it's family. Family, the meaning of that term was unknown to them. I heard a loud knock on my front door at 7 p.m. 3 firm knocks. I didn't even need to scan the crowd. I was certain it was them. They were standing there when I opened the door. Anger distorted Dad's face. Mom's eyes were already moist from crying. And Jenna looked like she had been dragged here screaming and kicking. Her mascara ruined. You've overreached yourselves. Dad pushed past me into the living room and yelled. I said, Mom. But she shook her head. Just make this right. Michael, what should be fixed? I lost my temper. I simply quit being used by you. Like a bullet. Jenna's words rang out across the room. Everything was damaged by you. That money was necessary to me. No. I answered in a chilly tone. That money was what you sought. There is a distinction. Michael, we are related. Dad slammed his fist down on my kitchen counter and yelled, This is not how family members treat one another. I chuckled. In fact, I laughed. Family, you sent me here to solve your issues. I'm not family now that I've said no. Jenna screamed. Stop that drama. Your sister is me, a sister of mine who has stolen hundreds. A parent who used me as his own financial account. A mother who speaks simply to make me feel guilty. Family isn't that. Dad's face turned red. Then Polly had took a step toward her. I could smell the cheap whiskey on his breath from so close. It's your only chance. I hope you understand the consequences of your actions and unfreeze the accounts. Or what? I leaned closer and whispered. Will you threaten me? You'll take more. Dad, what's left to take my funds? My sanity, no. No longer. I took out my phone, flipped the screen in their direction, and launched the banking app. The emergency funds. The frozen accounts. Jenna believed she would use. Everything is locked. We can settle this legally if you think I owe you. Isn't that what you threatened? Dad opened his mouth, closed it, and then opened it again. However, nothing was revealed. Jenna's tone faltered. We never cared. As I mentioned, I wasn't finished when I told you. I went to my desk, took out a folder from a drawer. How much have I done for this family? You ask first. Let's talk about the mortgage. I took out a printout. The electric bills. That was me. Internet. Groceries. Car payments for you. Jenna. All me. Dad's face drained of color. You? You're lying. Am I? I tossed down another stack. Printouts of transactions. Transfers. Screenshots of Jenna's endless requests for a little extra because she was trying so hard. Please. Michael. Mom whispered. I'm done being your safety net. I'm done being the one you call when your lies fall apart. I have my own life. And from now on, that's all I'm going to focus on. I walked to the door. Opened it. Get out. Dad's face twisted with anger. But he stopped himself. His fist clenching by his side. He froze. A split-second decision flashing across his eyes. Maybe he remembered that without me, his house of cards crumbled. Maybe he realized that I wasn't bluffing. Please. Michael. We can talk. Mom tried again. But I didn't budge. Get out, they left. Slamming the door so hard the picture frame shook. I stood there listening to their voices fading down the hallway. Jenna sobs. Dad's angry. Muttering. Mom's helpless whispers. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel free. Not yet. But I would. Because this was just the beginning. The day of the family dinner. I wasn't sure if they would even show up. But I made sure I was ready. I didn't dress up. Just jeans and a black t-shirt. But I had something else prepared. Something they wouldn't see coming. At exactly 6 p.m. there was a knock on the door. I opened it to find them. Dad. Mom and Jenna standing like a united front. Dad's jaw was clenched so hard I thought his teeth would crack. We're here to sort this out like adults. He grumbled, pushing his way inside without an invitation. Mom followed, wringing her hands, her eyes imploring without a word. Jenna rushed in last, arms crossed, eyes blazing and furious. Sit down, I said, closing the door. They didn't argue. Dad sunk into the armchair like he owned it. Jenna and Mom took the couch. Michael, Dad started, his voice attempting to sound cool but breaking below. We are prepared to forget all this if you simply rectify what you've done. Reopen the accounts. Help your sister with her store. Let's be a family again. A family, I chuckled. Is that what you call this? The relentless taking? The guilt? The manipulation? Stop being dramatic. Yenna said. Everything is being ruined by you. No. Jenna. I'm simply being honest for once. Her gaze expanded. What is the truth? The reality. Every time you weep and run to your father, you conceal yourself behind the lie you tell. I sat down and took out my phone. I was expecting you to say that. So I was ready. When I tapped the screen, a recording of Jenna's voice can be heard clearly. He is only an ATM. He is irrelevant. I can always hold him accountable. I'll create that for him. Or he'll do it himself. Jenna's expression became white. That is. Even Mom's eyes opened. Yet she screamed. That's fake. Dad, quit talking. Switch that off, no, calm and cool. I said. Everything will be heard by you. The next audio I listened was a conversation between Dad and Jenna. Dad. And just put pressure on him. He constantly feels bad about you. He will sign. He must. We are related. Dad's face flushed. Where did you purchase that? Where has Jenna been? In your opinion, so self-assured. So cocky. She had no idea that I kept records. But I did. Jenna's tone faltered. Are you watching me? You're crazy. Crazy? I laughed again. Let's discuss insanity. I retrieved a pile of documents and placed them on the coffee table. Medical bills and credit card debts. Repayments for your residence. All in my name. I paid for it. Mom's hand trembled as she stretched out. Please. Michael. Please. What act? As though this never occurred. Act as though it's been years since you used me. I leaned in. My voice was harsh yet steady. No. We must confront the reality tonight. Dad's hands were shaking. You're not entitled. Not at all. I rose, looming over them. Dad. Let me recall you. I own the house where you reside. My money covers the expenses. And my name is on the mortgage. Dad opened his mouth. But nothing came out. I made an effort to assist you. I made an effort to be a decent son. However, you made me your fallback option. Your safety net. Your punching bag. You're not thankful. I interrupted him before he could finish. Thank you. It's impressive that you said it. I looked across at Jenna. All of your aspirations. All of your small company concepts. My money was used to pay for them. Each and every one. Jenna sprang to her feet and stood. All you want to do is destroy me. I've always been disliked by you. No. I've always come to your rescue. Jenna. However, it is no longer the case. The next file I opened. This is the documentation for the vehicle you drive. The one for which I co-signed. You know, next week, it will be repossessed. What about the house? The automated payments have already been halted. You have 30 days to solve it. Mom's voice broke. Please. Michael, this is something we can resolve. You can't. Mom. Because money was never the point of this. The fact that I was never your son is the issue. Your insurance policy was me. Dad, come on forward. His eyes were filled with anger. Proceed. You can say anything you want. Nothing will change as a result. After hovering, his hand dropped. He stumbled back. Wild eyes. You believe you're quite intelligent. Do you believe that you are superior to us? No. I answered steadily and icily. I am. Nevertheless. Free? I made my way to the door. I opened it. Leave. They paused. They had nothing to say for once. Nothing to ask for. They walked away. Mom is weeping. Jenna's swearing. Dad giving an injured animal's glare. But I heard him growl before the door closed. This is something you'll regret. You believe you can simply leave. You have no idea what family is. Oh. I get precisely what you mean by that. Locking the door. I said. The living room was deserted when I turned back. Their rage is still reverberating. However, something felt off. I no longer bore the burden I had for years. They believed that this was the end of it. They assumed I would return in a shambles. However, they were mistaken. Because I wasn't simply leaving. I was prepared to take my life back. I didn't hold out. I sat down on my laptop and started as soon as the door closed behind them. First, a post on social media. No tale about crying. No cries for pity. Just the harsh, icy reality. Screenshots of receipts for payments. Jenna's messages requesting money. Sound recordings of her phoning me in ATM. Dad also said that I owed them since I was related. This is what family looks like when you're just a safety net. I wrote as the caption, I made a cup of coffee. Pressed post. And watched as the alerts started coming in. Reactions. Messages. Encouragement. And comments came in more quickly than I anticipated. However, they quickly responded. Mom came first. In 1 hour. Her post was up. Family members shouldn't ruin one another. Michael is telling lies. He has always had our backing. Telling lies. I grinned. Press reaction. Helped me. These are the invoices for your home that I paid. The bills I paid off for Jenna. My account was emptied of hundreds of dollars. Should I send her post the voice recordings 10 minutes later? They vanished. I didn't stop. Though, I formally removed my name off their home's mortgage by sending a letter to the bank. I disconnected the utilities that were still in my name. Let them solve it. The automobile I co-signed for Jenna came next. Within 2 days. The one she carried around town like a prize was taken back. She attempted to share an emotional story on Instagram. When you are betrayed by your own relatives. But, contrary to her expectations, pity did not pour in. Rather, questions began to be asked. I was not required to respond. They already knew everything from my post. I wasn't finished. Though, I set up a comprehensive, anonymous interview with a local podcast. I didn't need to name them. But I didn't. The narrative was obvious. A family that thought of me as a walking cash cow. One sister who pretended to be the victim. Parents with manipulative skills. It became a viral episode. All of a sudden, individuals started contacting each other and sharing their own tales. The reaction from my family was expected. They launched an attack. A week later, I received a cease and desist letter from a local attorney accusing me of defamation and damaging the family's image. Melavier, an old friend, said. I laughed. In a day. Please be aware that any evidence, including bank records, audio recordings, and communications, will be fully disclosed to the public as a consequence of any litigation. Proceed at your own peril. Quiet. Mom made another attempt. One more post. My own son is unrecognizable to me. How could he harm us like this? But enough had been seen. Perhaps check yourself in the mirror. Her pal said. And it was only the start. I got an email from the bank a week later. The mortgage's financial criteria have not been met by your household. The foreclosure process will soon start. Jenny never even opened her store. Her Instagram disappeared. Her web store shut down. She made an effort to save her reputation. But I had already destroyed it. Dad's friends turned against him. His haughty reputation was whispered by others. The self-made guy was a complete fabrication, now exposed, and I simply watched it all come crashing down. Messages came flooding in. Support from strangers. Clients reaching out. People narrating their personal betrayal stories. I felt less alone in my new flat for the first time. Tidy. Keep kid. Mine. Every morning when I drink my coffee, I watch the sun peeking through the shutters. No demands. No shouting. No fuss. My phone then broke. It was Jenna's message. Are you content now? Our family was ruined by you. Hopefully. It was worthwhile. I typed a response while grinning. Joyful. More joyful than before. And this is only the start. I believed I had seen everything 2 weeks after the storm. Then the email arrived. Dad's frantic, meandering message. Please. Michael, your point has been made. The house is about to be lost. Your sister is disintegrating. People no longer even speak to us. Was this what you were hoping for? Put your own family in ruins. Destroy. I chuckled. They had already done it. However, I didn't respond. A notice appeared an hour later. A fresh Facebook post. Once more. Mom is becoming the victim. Family is meant to be forgiving. Despite our greatest efforts, some people just wish to cause harm to others. I rolled my eyes, took a screenshot, and returned to my coffee. I was drawn to the comments. Though, not compassion. Not now. Did you not take advantage of him? Why are there so many receipts if he is lying? We were always aware that there was a problem with your family. They were being publicly ripped apart. Jenna then made an effort to defend herself. She produced an emotional video. The voice cracked and the mascara smeared. My life is being destroyed by my brother. He's telling lies. Everyone is being manipulated by him. However, she overlooked something. I continued to record. Below her video, I included a snippet. Her voice was really clear. He is only an ATM. He'll cover the cost. He always does. Her video's comment section descended into hate. She was referred to be a manipulator and a liar. In a few hours, our profile disappeared. Removed. But when I received a call from Dad's own father, Grandpa, it was the last straw. A guy who remained silent even when he witnessed the worst. And who never chose sides. I heard the events. Michael, come on over. Let's have a conversation. He wasted no time when I got there. He gave me an envelope. An official document. Grandpa, I've altered the trust. He stated steadily. Their home has never been entirely theirs. It's in my name. It's yours now. Stunned, I gazed at him. They made you feel as though you owed them money. Deceived you. And exploited you. I've had enough of watching it. It's over now. My parents' home received a legal notice a week later. They were given 30 days to leave. Mom made a panicked call. You can't do this. Michael, we have nowhere to go. Dad picked up the phone. You've evolved. I no longer recognize you. Is this your family? No. I answered calmly. Family members are meant to help one another. However, all you saw in me was a safety net. That's over now. They made every effort. Texts and calls. Even arriving at my house. I didn't respond. They packed things and departed. But I didn't even see it. I stood in front of their deserted home a month later. No laughs. No lights. Nothing but Kiat. Now my house is clean. Painted and renovated. A new beginning. It buzzed on my phone. Jenna sent me another message. But this time it was only 2 words. I apologize for my lack of response. I didn't even crack it open. I left the ashes of that existence behind and went away. My cheeks warm in the sunlight. I was free for the first time.